great way for a delighted John Cleland to start the new season. Second on the grid, first in the race. That'll do nicely. Another 18 left, and will Rydell bog down in the Volvo again? We'll soon know. And the answer is no.
We need to work harder. It's not good enough. 2 engines in 2 races. Not acceptable. The team must push harder. Today, my radar engines must step the up and try to build a championship.
John Cleland is sandwiched between the 2 BMWs and going for first, says John Cleland. Oh, McNeil sideways, championship leader in big trouble. Sideways, he gets it back again. It's Plato and McNeil side by side.
I'm going to rip your face off. You know what that? I'm going to rip your Hey! What are we doing here? Is this stock car racing or is this motorsport? The man's an animal.
And Colin Turkington is going to become the champion for the 3rd time in his career with 1 race to stand.
Hi again, everyone. Welcome to a brand new edition of Reverse Grid Podcast, the official or unofficial. Here we go. I'm going for endorsement already. The official BTCC podcast. I wish we could say that one day.
We've upgraded.
We have, haven't we? Yeah. God, I don't know. Take a couple of weeks off, and I'm off. I'm getting my big boots on. Welcome to Reverse Grid Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Doble here as usual with Lee Tilston. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. We've always got a great show in store, but this one's going to be good because this is our sort of wrap up of the season with a bit of a putting a bit of a bow on it with not only the season review, but in particular driver by driver review. So there's probably some names in here which we will give some airtime to that we probably haven't discussed all that much, in our previous episodes. So we'll give them a bit of the limelight. And as a bit of a disclaimer, as I'm sure you would agree, my friend, is this is just purely based on our opinions. Anyone out there who disagrees with anything that we're going to say, absolutely fine. We all watch this sport from a different perspective, I think. So this is just purely going to be us going through each of the drivers and kind of giving our opinion on what sort of season they had, how they performed. Did they exceed expectations? Did they meet them? Did they fall below them? But yeah, don't sort of try not to take it all too seriously.
And neither of us are professional racing drivers, are we?
Not,
so
enough,
we're giving our opinions purely as sort of long-term fans of the sport. So yeah,
absolutely. And this is why we'll click onto that unofficial.
Pick the bones out of 29 drivers.
Yeah, and that was more than I thought. When we were just discussing before we came on that I had the list going, and there was a few names guiltily that I had omitted that I've had to just put in. So we got a fair chunk to get through. It was a full grid this year. It really felt like it. With I know Mr. Gow is looking to bring it down, in the next few years or so. So, we'll certainly have a show full. How are we going to do this? So we go driver by driver in terms of the table, I believe.
Yeah. I thought we'll work our way up to Mr. Sutton at the top. So I thought if we start from Nick Halstead at the bottom and go up, but we said we're not going to rate Rob Huff or James Gornall, who only did 1 meeting. It's good to everybody who did it at least half a season, basically, which is 29 drivers.
Yeah. Team Hard, obviously, bless them, had a couple of guest spots through the year. Be interesting to see if either of them come back for next year, to be fair. It was, they definitely kept the variety up. I'll give them that.
Brought that colour to the grid.
Yeah, I'll just remember one more off my list that I forgot from, and it's a Team Hard driver. I think that was the hardest thing, funnily enough, was remembering all of them. So anyway, go on then, sir. So if you've got the standings in front of you, so it'd probably be.
This is the first time I've done actual research, actual preparation, instead of just
That's how
just sort of
serious we
doing it
are
on a
about
whim.
this.
Yeah, I wanted to really get me opinions and me facts straight, as good as they can be. So yeah, so I thought we start at the bottom, and that's Nick Halstead, and the rating I've given him. We're giving ratings out of 10,
Yeah.
and I'm giving him a 1.5, 1.5.
Okay. I've gone 2. And I think, I mean, his performance within the races, I mean, nobody can argue with that. He was quite often, obviously, at the back. We do a little family sweepstakes here. I don't think I've ever mentioned it. We each pull 4 drivers at the beginning of the season. 4 drivers? Yeah, 4 drivers each here in the household. So me, my wife, and the 2 kids. So we have a team that we have, like fantasy football. And I give money for each of the different things. So first, second, third, fastest lap, top 10, last place.
And you predicted he was going to be champion at the start of the season.
We don't. Well, only between us, yeah. But sort of, we're basically what happens at the end of the season. However, our drivers each have performed, we amass money, and we actually got a pot of money we achieve at the end of it. Anyway, the point I was going to make is I do. There is money available in this for last place, but none of us had Nick Halstead in our teams, which I think would have been, a great one to have in terms of top in the.
But to be fair, though, he finished 7th, didn't he, on the opening meeting at Donington?
Wow.
He finished 7th. He finished 7th in race 2, ahead of Colin Turkington, ahead of Tom Ingram, ahead of Ash Sutton, and ahead of Bobby Thompson.
Are we on about the round that completely got turned on?
That was the wet race, where Sam Osborne finished 4th and got promoted to the podium. Ronan Pearson was actually 3rd, and Nick Hamilton scored his first top 10.
Yeah, so yes, his best outing of.
But you've still got to finish, haven't you? You've still got to finish. There was better drivers that didn't finish or finished outside or finished lower than him. But it was a strange because to get 7th place and then nowhere near for the rest of the season.
I think that round that he got that in was a real anomaly in my head. It was great to see, because you had people up the front that you really wouldn't have predicted.
It was a brilliant meeting.
And I kind of think that it was, if ever there was a true reverse grid finish, that was it. It really was turned on its head. And I think if it did speak volumes, in fact, that was his best meeting when he was up there with guys like Nick Hamilton, which aren't always up there. I think what I gave him extra consideration for, though, is not whether we can consider this because it's off the grid, is what he has done behind the scenes.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. He
was behind the Crazy Kart Championship and some of the onboarding or some of the stuff that ITV were doing. A
lot of his ideas that he's talked about over the season about pushing the championship on and exploiting its marketability, is that the right word? I like a lot of his ideas, and if he really pushes through with that, then he could end up being a real pivotal character in the touring car's future.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure he didn't expect any amazing results when he started, and he's had a season under his belt, and he's come across as a top guy. When the couple of times we met him, and fair play to him. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does off the track with the championship.
I had the opportunity. He put on I think it was during the summer, pretty sure. The competition go out where it was free to enter, and you could win hot laps around Donington with him in one of his, was it a McLaren, one of the McLaren GT cars that he raced in, possibly. And I was one of the winners, but because it was on a Monday, I couldn't go. So I would have had the chance to meet him and go around the track and whatever. Which would be great. That would be good. It's those kind of things. I think he is, and he's very visible in groups like we mentioned. Kev Whitewood in the British Touring Car chat group. He's very visible and very engaging within that, and I think that is great.
He could be important because without going off too much of a tangent, but I do think that sometimes the Sony cars does tend to get a little bit. It does tend to stagnate. Now I don't know what's going on at Toka. I don't know who all the chiefs are behind the scenes, but I don't know how fresh it is. But I think it perhaps is looking for, say, maybe a younger person to come aboard with obviously business acumen, and he's been incredibly successful guy, hasn't he? Didn't he create the tweet or something to do with that?
So,
yeah. So he's clearly, he's clearly knows what he's doing with business, and like I say, he could be,
almost
become
like
a real,
like an ambassador role. You could imagine him that kind of thing, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah.
So
Which
there
I
we
think
go.
this championship needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, even though he was bottom of the standing, first on our list, not with the greatest score from us based on his on-track record, but really deserves a shout out for everything else that he's sort of helped get going. So yeah, fair play, Nick. If you're listening, we would like to have you on the show, sir. If you're listening, let's get down there. Cool. Who we got next?
So you went for 2, didn't you? So and then the next one, then, so 28th was Will Powell. Did half a season, and for that I give him a slightly less score, and that's a 1.
Yeah, I went for exactly the same, mainly because I forgot. I knew he was there at the start, but I didn't realise he had done half a season. I thought he'd only done a few meetings. So that for me meant he really wasn't on my radar at all this season in terms of things he achieved and whatever. So yeah.
It does seem a long time ago, doesn't it, that he was in it?
It does really. I think a lot happened.
The break went on forever anyway, and he left at the start of that break, didn't he? So,
and I think a lot happened. I think when just before I think we came back, where there was all this movement with him going and Jade moving, and then that kind of triggered all of this movement within Team Hard. I think because there was so much of that going on in the second.
And Bobby Thompson left at that time as well, didn't
he?
So Jade Edwards replaced him at One Motorsport, which meant Darryl DeLeon replaced Jade.
Yeah.
Bobby Thompson left, so Michael Crees came in.
Yeah.
And obviously later in the year, then Nick Hamilton left, and Bobby Thompson came back in after Huff. And
it's very easy, I think, to almost forget. No disrespect to Will Powell or anyone like that, but it's very easy to forget when something like this happens amongst loads of other activity, of the same ilk. It was a bit of a merry-go-round. But yeah, no, I couldn't really think of much else to give him for this one, and I think that's fair.
So then we go up 27th, and that's Jade Edwards.
Okay,
and I give Jade, which won't please her army of loyal supporters, but it's a 2 for me.
Oh, you know what? We're on the same page here, because I have given her a 2 as well. And she is one of those. It's great to see her on the track, and I love listening to her. I really do want her to do well. And there's been moments this season where it looked like she was gonna get it. She was gonna get her first.
She was gonna lucky at Brands not to score points.
Exactly. Yeah,
totally
there's always there seems to be something, whether it's within her control. Most of it appears to be out of her control. Bad luck. I don't know what you put it down to, but it just wasn't there this year again. And the mid-season move, I thought, to One Motorsport might have reignited something. And
didn't really get much better, did it? The only thing that improved was the reliability, but the results didn't really improve. And in Jade's 3 sort of full seasons, that's been really the story of it. I mean, I think she's only scored maybe 1 or 2 points in 3 seasons, so
that really surprised me.
Not really quite good enough.
No, if we are doing this based on, again, mainly achievements on track, I know we've given a couple of others, off track kind of consideration for some things. I think she is one. Even though, I didn't know, over the last 3 seasons, her points record was quite that low. She was one that I would have expected more of.
Yeah.
I suppose, she didn't really do any better or worse than last year, to be fair. But I really did. It was that mid-season switch. I thought this something's going to change now. This is a good move back. She's back almost where
Well, she was in a good car, really. I mean, I think I know Will Powell didn't score any, but that's the thing, isn't it? She didn't. Will Powell didn't score any points, and neither did Jade in the same amount of races. And then Darrell De Leon replaced Jade in the Cooper and scored 6 points.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So
in the same car.
Yes, she had some bad luck. She was very unlucky at Brands not to score points, but also, you look at the 3 seasons, she just hasn't really.
No.
How many excuses can you make after 3 seasons? It's probably just not good enough.
It'll be interesting with her for next year because obviously she didn't have a seat originally at One Motorsport this year, despite obviously being with BTC last year. And obviously she made that switch. Is that going to? Is a season by no means guaranteed for any driver, I don't think. And it'll be interesting to see where she ends up.
I mean, one thing we can say about it is it is good having Jay on the grid, and I don't want it to be all negative. And she was unlucky not to score points at Brands in the final meeting, but so and we were saying it's not often really that you can think that she shucks it off. She shucks it off the track by her own accord or anything like that. So she's clearly she certainly isn't a poor driver or anything like that, because we've had drivers on the grid over the years and they're chucking it off nearly every race. With the past, John George was one who springs to mind, was constantly throwing it off the track. And she's certainly not in that at that level.
No, her ability is there, absolutely.
And it's a big grid as well. So but we're just. It can only get better, really.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hope so. And what I was going to say, what I would really love to see, and it's probably may well be a few years off, but someone like Lydia Walmsley, who is in the JCWs and the minis, she's doing really well.
Yeah,
she's done really well this year, and it would be great to almost see Jade still there on the grid for BTCC, but Lydia come up, and then and
a bit of a comparison,
a bit of competition almost as well, maybe. So, but fingers crossed. See what happens next year with her.
So you went for the same. You went for the same score, did you?
I went for 2 for Jade.
Yeah. I was 2 as well, wasn't I?
You were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was I 2? Yeah, it was 2. And so the next one is Jack Butel, and I'm giving a 2 for Jack as well.
Okay.
Very similar to Jade, really. Doesn't really chuck it off much, but I would have expected him to have scored some points in that car, really, at some stage, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, see, I possibly was a little bit more generous on my side. Not really any other reason, to be fair. It's just I gave him a 4, and that to me was kind of my mid-table scores were those who were kind of there or thereabouts. They finished, most of the races. They didn't really set the world alight. And I thought with Jack, sometimes he was one of those again. I did forget he was there sometimes, because you didn't really hear him in the mix. I don't know. I guess he was in contention for the Jack Sears. I think he probably came under that. The cohort that was in for that.
The other thing with Jack Butel was I didn't really see any kind of improvement through the season though either. That was it. He seemed to sort of be in the same level all season. There wasn't any point where you could see a little bit of progress. And while we talk about Jade was unlucky, she was I think 11th when she got wiped out at Brands Hatch.
Yeah,
I can't think of a time really when Jack Butel was in the points. I could be wrong. Maybe one of the wet races, the cards might not have gone in his favour, but I can't really think of a point where I was looking thinking, Jack Butel's just outside the top 10 here.
No, because I mean, as an overall with the Coopers and Team Hard this year,
a mixed bag to say the least. It was
a real mixed bag, but the only one I can think of, and again we will get to him, further up. The only one that springs to mind that was always there was Dan Lloyd.
Well, Bobby Thompson when he was there.
Was
good. So of course he had the 3 meetings, didn't he, where he was out? So
but I think
again that kind of broke up his rhythm a bit.
but consistently right. I mean, Dan, he for me he was the best driver from that team. It's a pretty bloated team, I would say. You know, I in my personal opinion, I really do think 6 cars is too much for one team.
Yeah, I think 3 really should be a maximum for a team on a bit of a limited budget.
But yeah,
When
Jack.
You think the likes of BMW basically only run 3 cars and then have another driver bring their car over, and I think even Adam Morgan does that, doesn't he? I think I've heard that he brings over. Yeah, I'm sure I've heard that Sicily has still something to do with his car. I don't know the full story, but either way, it just goes to show that it's obviously clearly difficult to run a number of cars. And yeah.
But yeah, no, I think 2 fair scores there. Probably, even though there's a little bit of difference in the score itself, the same sentiment there.
Yeah.
But, just didn't really see enough of him.
No. Well, and then we go up to Daryl De Leon, and I give Daryl 5. I was very impressed with. Yeah, I was very impressed with De Leon this season. In his half season.
This is where some of our scores may again might have the same reasons behind it, but I might just be a little bit more generous. I gave him a 7.
Right.
Mainly because not one his standings, but the fact based on expectation.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't there at the beginning of the season. The first I heard of him was at the Donington tyre test.
Yeah.
I think that was during the summer break.
And he did well there, didn't he?
He did well there. He had a good showing there, and then obviously it all came out that he joined the team because Jade moving and all that. And I was really impressed. There was some races where I really didn't expect him to be anywhere but at the back, and I think he did really well to finish where he did in his first season. So
well, I agree, mate. I think when he came in, you think he was 17, and you automatically think, well, he could really struggle here, and and he didn't. But yeah, again, we talk. I mean, and this is something that I would say pretty much most of the drivers, really, with the probable exception of Will Powell, maybe Nick Halstead. But what you can say is even the drivers towards the bottom, they don't throw the car off as regularly as I've seen with some drivers in the past that are at the back that are almost hopeless. But again, can't think of too many times really. I know he had that failure. He had a failure at Donington. I think it was a brake failure, wasn't it, where he went well off. I mean, Tim Harvey said it was a brake failure. Obviously, he was only doing commentary, so it might not have been the case. But he did. He kept it on the track, and he scored points on 2 occasions. And I remember the other times. Remember at Croft on his opening weekend, and he was up to 10th, and then got called into the pits because the pit member had been on the grid. And even despite a pit stop, I think he still finished a couple of places from the back. He was just banged on the pace, and I was really impressed by him. I hope he's in the championship next year, because I think the way that we've seen like Dexter Patterson and Aidan Moffat grow over the last I mean, I know Moffat's not a kid anymore, but even he was only 16, 17 when he came, the way he progressed. And I certainly think De Leon could easily do something similar.
Yeah, let's hope so.
He's handing all sorts of pies, doesn't he? Because he does a lot of GT racing and stuff like that. He just won some kind of endurance championship, I noticed at the weekend. Yeah, so he's clearly a very versatile driver. Like I say, he's only just turned 18 a couple of months ago.
It's exciting that there are these guys coming through, and they are coming into BTCC, because that's what we need. I was looking back on the 2013 season review a few weeks ago, and I remember watching that season live, completely forgot that Jake Hill made his debut that year.
I know, but it's scary, isn't it? That was 10 years ago.
Geez. So when I came back to watching it, and obviously, a few years ago, Jake is battling up the front now, wasn't really familiar with him.
I think he didn't do his first full season until about 2016, because I think that was at Croft, wasn't it? He did like a stand-in. And he did a couple of those. I think he did a couple
that year, possibly.
Maybe. I think he did a couple of stand-ins for a few years. And maybe did one season where he wasn't there at all. And then I think he's now been in it. But even 2016, I mean, that's what, 8 seasons ago, is it? 7? I mean,
I remember
already 7 seasons he's done already. I mean, I still think of him as one of the youngsters, but he's in his late 20s now as well. He still doesn't look that. He doesn't even look that old, to be fair.
No, that 2013
drive.
season where he first came in, I think within, I don't know if it's his first race, maybe it was his first meeting, maybe by race 2, race 3. I think he got awarded the Jack Sears Trophy.
He did, yeah,
for
that's
that
right. I'm
race.
sure that was at Croft. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure that was
so it's
Croft.
like these guys when they come in, you know the ones that are going to be
Yeah.
coming in. I think Darrell De Leon definitely is one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the next driver is Nick Hamilton, who I give a 3 to. And I think that was arguably the feel good story of the season at
Yes,
Donington.
that's what bumped me. I gave him a 4, and that was my sort of my main reference point for that. I think you cannot take that away. Yes, the result was majorly impacted by the weather and tyre choice and that we saw a few times this year, but it was fantastic to see him get that moment. At least.
And like we said earlier, you've still got to keep it on the track, haven't you? And when he's finished 6th, ahead of the likes of Colin and Turkington and Ash Sutton and Tom Ingram, and he's still got to make the right tyre change and keep it on the track. It's no good having the right tyres if you're chucking it off every 5 minutes, which is what Nick was accused of in the past, that he couldn't keep it on the track. But I think this season, not just that 6th place finish, but I think he was driving better than ever in that half season. Might not be getting the top 10s or whatever, but he was. I think he did score points in a point in another race as well. He finished 15th, so he was driving better than ever that half season he had. And it's a shame he got cut short.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a shame he couldn't finish the season, because I think he is one of those. There are a few of these drivers that they're not not far up the grid a lot of the time, but you really do think they are an asset to have.
Yeah.
I
mean, maybe I might up mine a little slightly, maybe to a 3.5 or a push of 4 like yourself. But yeah, I thought Nick can hold his head up high with his half season. I thought he drove better than ever in that. Not just the 6th place, but for him, you think the next race, I think he starts off the reverse grid about 6th again, 5th or 6th. You think he's been so used to his few years in the touring cars of being near the back or at best midfield, to be sitting there and only see 5 cars ahead of him must have been a real thrill for him. He has a great race, and then he gets a race to look forward to where he's starting right at the front. And so no, fair play to him.
It'll be good to see him. Hopefully we'll see him back next year.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then we go up 23rd, and that was Michael Crees, Mr. Popular.
Mr. Popular, I love Creasy. It was great to see him come back. And
he's a top guy, likable fella.
He is.
Didn't probably get the results that I expected, and probably he expected. I don't know. I've not really heard a full sort of analysis of what he thinks of how his season went. But
the impression I got is that he was happy to be there. He was happy to be back, to have that chance again, which he didn't think he was going to have this year. I have awarded him a 2, really just based on that fact. The fact that I think he didn't achieve expectation for me, but also I think just you can't argue the fact that I think he should have done better, even with the
I've gone for a 3.
Fair enough.
And again, it's just like I say, I would have expected a few top 10s. I think even if it'd been low top 10, I would have expected him to have been sort of maybe around about that 8th and 11th quite regularly, and instead I think he just had the sole 11th. So that, in that sense, he was disappointed. But I think he was there, wasn't he? He wanted to be back on the grid and setting things up for next season. Hopefully, that's fine to achieve, and you can have a proper go at it next season.
Because you need momentum, I think, in this, and I think it's very, very difficult to come in, especially the second half of the season, and try to kind of not step in someone's shoes, but you kind of you're halfway through. You're not going to get the full bite of it, are you? Really, you're not going to get the full kind of experience. But hopefully he'll be back. He'll be back next year. It's great. I was gutted when I found out he wasn't starting the season, but then he started in the GT. So I thought, well, he's obviously gone on to almost better things for himself. But Yeah, he had that. I love the fact he got drawn for the reverse grid. Was that in the final race?
At Silverstone.
Or was it Silverstone, wasn't it? Yeah.
Silverstone was, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. He admitted himself he was bricking it. And
Yeah.
I think you kind of saw that someone again who's not used to being in pole position. But it's nice to see.
Sometimes people, you've mixed opinions on these reverse grids and stuff, but I think when it gives drivers a chance to start the front, when he gets in that position again, he'll be prepared totally differently now, just from having that experience there. He started a touring car race now from the front.
Yeah,
he might have done it before. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's had that race now at the start. So the more that happens, you can only be better for him in the future. So
I think they commented on actually when it happened, it was his first pole. I'm pretty sure that I heard them say that, which it's nice, isn't it? Yeah, exactly, to have that half season, but you also can say you started a race on pole, even if it didn't last for very long. But yeah.
Next one, Dexter Patterson. And he gets, for me, a 5. I think he quietly went about his business. Again, another youngster, only 18, is he? Or 19, I think. I
think he's like 20. Yeah, no, I think you're right, about 19.
It's only his second season, isn't he? Yeah, he was with Aidan Moffat. He only did the one season, so I'm sure. I think he is only 18, 19. Yeah, so forget how young he is, really.
He was one of those I highlighted when they were doing the Donington GP loop, that he wasn't born last time the BTCC did that loop. So so he's definitely younger than that.
Yeah, but no, he did well. And his highlight was he was at Knockhill finishing 6th in the rain.
Yeah. And I've given him a 5 as well. Really, he was one of those. I would feel he was like one of those steady eddies. He was just about where I thought he would be. And he was.
I think he's really ready to push on, isn't he, next season now, to take that next step. Whether that's still with Team Hard or whether that's maybe another team thinking, if there's any teams out there where they've got a sole number one driver and they want a good young up and coming driver, there's a few drivers on the grid, isn't there, that they could take. And Dexter Patterson definitely comes into that bracket.
That'd be interesting.
I'd love to see Napa do something like that, where they maybe have two drivers that are like, say for example, you have Sutton and Dan Camish, and then they have almost like a separate team, but within a team where you have maybe Sam Osborne and Patterson or De Leon or something, where you're looking for them to really progress and in a competitive environment.
It's not a hierarchy as such, but you have got that natural progression already there.
Yeah.
Rather than having 4 guys on the top of their game, which at some point they are probably all going to start falling back at about the same point or go on to other things. You've naturally got these ones who can work their way up.
A little bit like what Egg used to do, wasn't it? Remember at Vauxhall Egg Sport, and they brought in Phil Bennett and Paul O'Neill, and then they brought in Andrew Jordan a bit later on, and they always seem to find that young driver, didn't they? They looked at Luke Hines and everything. I'd like to see a team do something like that. One of the top teams with the money and the backing, and even like BMW. Just try and find a good young driver that they can. There's no pressure on them. They can just learn in a good competitive environment.
Team Hard. I'm not going to keep banging about Team Hard, but as a team, I've always kind of seen them as a bit of a feeder sort of entity. You get these football teams that feed into the big teams and stuff. I think
they gave Jake Hill his debut. You were talking about. I'm sure they gave it at Croft. They've always had a knack, haven't they, of finding good young drivers. To be fair to teams,
and I kind of see them like that still. I think, the only one that really stands out, there's a few in there at the minute really stand out, where I think almost there might be, possibly worth, moving higher. I'm not saying that Team Hard are one like the bottom teams, but in terms of challenging for championships or decent grid places and that, I think there are teams that can almost not promise that, but they can.
Hyundai is another one, isn't it? Yeah, Bristol Street Motors. There's another one. You look what they did with Roland Pearson. Prime example, isn't it? took a young driver on, competitive environment, did him brilliantly.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, it's a team I'm interested to see what shape they're in next year and any changes they make, because they've been very unsettled this year. It appears. It'd be good to see them have a team that can give it a whole season. Consistency is king. I always think that.
Well,
here we go next.
The next driver finished 21st, George Gamble. So, I mean, I like Gamble. He was Nottingham lad, fellow Forest fan, but he was one of the most unluckiest drivers on the grid this year, as a lot of the Toyota drivers were. I don't think they had the best of machinery. I think there was 3 good drivers that didn't really get the best machinery, and Gamble certainly bore the brunt of the luck in that team, because he looked a real prospect, didn't he, last season in the BMW?
And that was it. That's where sort of my marking on this. I went completely mid-table. I given him a 5.
Really. Oh, right. Well, you're more generous than me then, because I gave him a 3.
Did you? It was based on last year he really did show me something.
But he won a race, didn't he, at Knockhill?
Yeah, and this year, just again one of those that it really didn't show me anything. But I don't think that was down to him all that time. You're right. I think there is more to do with the car, because there are drivers, particularly Rory Butcher, when we get to him. I really did expect more.
I think the car wasn't competitive. He had some bad luck.
It looked good last year. There's something's happened.
Yeah, but they just don't think they did those drivers any favours. Don't know whether it's a Toyota thing or a Speedworks thing or collective or what. But and also he did get into one too many accidents. He did seem a bit crash happy at times, didn't he? And running into people and
which obviously
I hope he gets. I certainly hope he's there, because again, he's a really nice guy. Having met him a few times, he's always good to chat to and really pleasant. And I don't think that's a reflection on him as a driver this season. So I'd like to see him come back for another campaign.
But as we go through, the other two in Toyota, you'll see a similar. And for me, it's a kind of like I was really quite excited about what they could have done this year.
I was, me too. I thought it was because I like Speedworks as a team. They've always got better and better. Toyota apparently are going big on motorsport, and I thought they've got 3 really good drivers there, 3 shrewd drivers, and it just didn't work out, did it?
No, for one reason or another. But middle of the road 5 for me.
Yep. Well, we're going to the top 20 now, and Mikey Doble, or Doble, because I've heard 2 different variations on it.
I think.
Doble, I think, Doble is what the TV call him, and then I've heard it pronounced Doble on other podcasts. But we'll go with Doble, and I give Mikey a 6. I thought he was a revelation this season.
He really was. Yeah, I've given him an 8. I'm trying to be as unbiased as humanly
possible. It's a good
possible.
cop, bad cop.
It is a bit, isn't it? But I, may have inflated a little bit by my own. I've tried to keep my own personal allegiances out of the way, but I really did think that I didn't know what to expect this year.
But he got a pole. He's the only other driver. He's the only non-NAFTA driver to get a pole.
That is a big part of me giving him that score for his first season. And
he'll be in the history books for that, mate. He'll be in the record books.
Yeah,
you'll buy a touring car, but you'll buy a book, the history of the British Touring Car Championship, in about 10 years' time, and Mikey Doble's name will be in it.
Because the only guy to slay Napa Racing in qualifying, Mikey Doble, fair enough. Unfortunately, the well-earned pole didn't come to anything at all. Practically, it was gone before the race even began, unfortunately. But you can't take that away. And the fact that he was in there to the death, he was battling Andrew Watson for the Jack Sears for the season as well. I think, really, really impressed with him.
Yep. And then the next one is Sam Osborne.
Oh, Napa, onto the grid you come.
And he was a really difficult one for me to rate, because he had such an up and down season.
Yeah, he did.
He had a podium Yeah, at one stage, so he's ineligible for the Jack Sears next
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
Or even though it was he got it when Ronan Pearson was excluded at
that's
Donington.
right.
But
Yeah,
even so, he's out of the Jack Sears next season, which I think might be a bit of a disappointment for him, really, because he could have been a real contender for that.
he was. I think
But
it was him, Doble, and Watson were the three main ones. I think going for that at the
yeah,
end. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he had some high points, but I've given him 4.5
Have you? Okay.
at a
I've gi-
push.
I,
Yeah, I was signed with a 4, but I think maybe a 4.5.
okay, I've given a slightly better 6.
Yeah,
Again, because he had some great moments this year, and I think even though out of the Napa guys, anyway, it's very, very easy to kind of think Napa is always meant to be at the front because that's really what they did show us this year. It's what we came to expect. And Sam Osborne was out of the 4; he was always the one who was further back. But I think the competition he gave in the Jack Sears, I've paid more attention to that this
yeah,
year, and I think
true,
it was a great competition.
true.
And I think, but him being one of the main 3 at the top there throughout, in that was really quite, I think, an achievement. And yeah, he had bad luck. He had a bit of everything really this year.
Yeah,
Um,
well, to be fair, though, mate, from watching this, I've watched the season back since the weekend, sort of in preparation for this. And one thing I noticed when I looked at it all, sort of quite congested, was you take Ash Sutton out of it, and the Napa, as dominant as they were, they actually had a lot of bad luck and
they
reliability
really
problems.
did. Yeah.
Dan Camish, Robot, and Osborne
Yes.
all had like terrible luck and terrible runs at that time, like back-to-back meetings and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I remember just before and just after the halfway point, it was Sam Osborne that was really there in the brunt of the bad luck in that team.
Yeah.
Then it ended up being Dan Camish in the second half of the season. Robo was a little bit up and down all season as well with in terms of luck. But Ash just seemed to, I mean, whether that's a testament to him, but he just seemed to, steamroll off into the distance. Now, whether there was a bit of luck in now, or whether that's just because of how good he is. Maybe Ash made that car look better than what it was. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean,
Because the other 3 all had issues.
yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. It's a good point that, to be honest, is about Ash possibly making it look better than it was. The guy, it's his first championship in that car. We're going slightly off topic from Sam Osborne now, but it is relevant. To win 4 championships in 3 different cars, there's something about him for sure. He's not just sticking with a winning formula. He may well be that winning formula. So you're right, yeah. So I think if you take him out of the equation, Sam Osborne really wasn't that out of the loop, out of the mix than the other 2.
No.
But yeah.
And 18th was Ronan Pearson. I actually thought might have finished a bit higher up in the standings, but no, he was 18th and unlucky. Really, he had 2 podiums denied from him. Really, and I've given him a 7.
So
I think another really highly rated young driver that I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
One of those rookie year, you're coming in with no expectation really, anything you can achieve, and the fact that he had a podium so early on, it was a shame it got taken from him, but that just shows straight off, making his mark, and he didn't really fall that far back. I know the table says one thing, but I really, whenever there was action going on and a battle going on, he was there or thereabouts. He wasn't hanging.
It was a learning curve, I think. From looking at the season, I mean, he had that podium at Donington, lost on an exclusion. He didn't really score many points in the first half, or say many points. Didn't finish in the top 10 really for the first half, but then for the second half, he really kicked on. He learned quickly.
He fell foul, I think, or fell foul versus played the game as he was asked to. Towards the end of the season, he got kind of embroiled in. He had to give up positions to Tom Ingram on more than one occasion.
Yeah, the knockhill, yeah, because
of obviously Ingram going for the title, which is so difficult. And I think you can see Ingram wasn't happy to do that, but he knew he had to do it. So his standing could have been even a little bit better had he not had to sort of play that game.
But you know what? Unlike this is where his and Sam Osborne's fortunes differ, because now Rona next year will be able to go for the Jack Sears Trophy from on the back of losing those 2 podiums.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of those was the one which Sam Osborne gained. So he's kind of Ronan's Osborne out the game and potentially left the path clear for himself next season.
That would be good.
Yeah. But so he was a 7 for me, and he went for a 7 as well, didn't you? So 17th was Bobby Thompson, and he gets 7.5.
Okay.
From me.
I gave him a 6.
Yeah.
He was one of those, I think, bearing in mind he had a bit of an extended break. I won't call it any more than that. We didn't know if we were going to see him back. I didn't know if he was going to be back, and all of a sudden he was. So I think he was present for obviously most of the season.
Yeah, it was only 3 meets he missed in the end.
Yeah, so taking that into consideration, I was kind of like, judging against the other guys who had a full season, I probably, I could have given him a little bit more had he been around for more, I suppose. But the fact that, for me, when he returns, you could really see he was gunning for. He was almost out to prove a point.
Yeah,
and that really came across, and I like that. I think it's fantastic to see him have that fight in him when anyone could have kind of limped back on, of taken a little bit of umbrage to what went on there. I think to be brought back in, but I wouldn't mind betting he's advertising himself there. I think for a drive elsewhere, might be a good move for him for next year if he can.
Yeah,
if he's going to be on the grid. He's definitely someone I would like to see in a few other teams, really.
Yeah, well, he had 2 second places, didn't he, this season? And one of those wasn't from was an outright second as well, not a reverse grid. So again, we've talked about Team Hard and the Coopers, and I think he and Dan Lloyd were really good in that car for Team Hard.
Yeah.
So and the next one is Aidan Moffat, 16th, and been a big follower of Aidan's over the years, but I was a bit disappointed with him this year, and I've gone for a 4.5.
I've gone for a 4. So we're on the same page there. It was unfortunate. Yeah, I think he's always been one that I've liked to look out for. I mean, for no other reason, he was my son's favourite car last year when my little boy started really getting into it. Ash Sutton was his favourite driver, but he loved the Laser Tools car, so we were always looking out for him, and Dexter Patterson that. And I thought, again, maybe a little bit like Jade, I think it's almost kind of think a move to One Motorsport was definitely a move up, and I did expect more, I suppose, which is why I think he fell a little bit short this year. Didn't really seem to be any reason for it a lot of the time. He had a couple of instances where he ended up off and not finishing races, but just didn't seem to be.
Didn't seem that competitive either. And no. I know that car. I mean, Josh Cook didn't win a race this season, did he? In it, but he won almost every. I mean, he won more than half of the races in the independence class.
Yeah.
And I would have expected a bit more competition from Aidan there, and in the same car and the same equipment. But again, maybe that it just underlines how good a driver Josh Cook is, that it may perhaps in an uncompetitive car, Josh got these kind of results that he has.
Yeah. Which, when you look at those cars, you kind of think, for me, it should be made for success.
Yeah, it looked around about the midpoint of the season that they had a bit of a tweak, didn't they, within the team, and Will Powell left, and I think Barry Plowman and Matt Neal got involved for a little while, and it looked like maybe seemed to take a step up. But then I think Barry Plowman went back to Team Hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they just seem to go backwards again. So I don't know what's been going on off the track there. But
I've mentioned it before. It's particularly with Josh Cook when you hear him talk after races and that. It just he didn't seem pleased with a lot of the results he got.
No,
because he was expecting more again, and it seemed his frustrations were with the car. So there is a certain element of that, I suppose. But you're right, the competitive nature, I did think Aidan would have been definitely up there. But got to be.
Next one was 16th, and 15th, and that was Andrew Watson. And you know what? I've got 7.5 here, but I'm actually thinking that might be harsh, and I might push it up, especially since he won the Jack Sears Trophy. I might push that up to an 8.
Yeah, I match you with my 8.
Yeah, I think he was
fantastic.
Top class this season.
Really was. Yeah, I think out of the ones that were making their debut in BTCC this season, he is the one that I thought would definitely achieve something.
Yeah,
he was the one I was really excited to see what he did, and you know, he had a couple of podiums up there as well. Yeah, he won the Jack Sears. I just think all round he was out of that team. You know, Power Max again did stuff that nobody thought they would do this year, and I really think a driving force there with Andrew Watson for sure.
Yeah. No, I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and yeah, he could be aggressive as well at times as well. He could be really forceful, and he just looks like a really good driver, and I'd be amazed if disrespect Power Mac, because like we said on here loads of times, what a brilliant job they've done with the oldest car on the grid. All 3 drivers absolutely brilliant. Car was so reliable, but I'm talking about the top teams should be looking at Andrew Watson there, because he's you know what, I think he'd fit in really well. He'd fit in at Hyundai.
Okay.
Bristol Street Motors, where I think he'd be a really good partner, a really good foil for Tom Ingram. And I'll also, but they've still got Ronan Pearson there, so he's going to keep getting better. And I think that would be a really good lineup. That of 3 really top guys. You got the young gun, Watson a bit in there, but I think Watson could really be the one who pushes Ingram. And I think drivers need that sometimes. I've said often, I think that's sometimes maybe being Plato and Turkinson's undoing, is they've not always had a teammate that pushes them. And whenever they have, like an Andrew Jordan or a Jake Hill, it's sometimes brought the best of them.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking...
And likewise, I think with this season with Napa, with Sutton having a driver like Camish, it's done that team wonders, having 2 really good teammates, Camish and Robo. So I think that's important.
A good shout there with Hyundai. I didn't think that one. The one that was in my mind when you did say that was One Motorsport, because I think quite possibly, you touched on it there with Turkington and Plato, having that, you know, they are the main driver. They're not really a lot of competition within the team. We've said
Toyota, even Toyota,
yeah. Again, I think with One Motorsport was Josh Cook. I think needs that competition.
Yeah.
I don't feel, we've already said already, he didn't seem to have it this year from his
teammates. But that's where I'm not sure if it was the team, because I thought, because Aidan Moffat was a really good teammate for Ash Sutton, wasn't he, when they were at Infinity? So I thought they might be they might have worked well together at one, but it just didn't seem to work.
I just think Watson would just light a fire. What we saw this year, he would have the spark there that would almost make Josh sit up, I think, and think, okay, you know, I've taken nothing away from what Josh Cook did this year at all. I think just having that little bit behind him, somebody else within the team who's like, okay, I need to push it even further now and get whatever ounce of whatever I can out of this car.
Yeah, it definitely, mate. It does improve drivers. When we went to the Super Touring event in July, Alan Menu said that he felt the best thing that happened to him in his career was when Jason Plato went to Renault, and he said, and the best or worst thing that could have happened was when Jason Plato got the 3 poles at the start of the season, because he said he wasn't happy about it, and it really pushed him on. And I think drivers do need that. You do need a strong teammate sometimes to really push you and bring the best out of you.
You do. Yeah, I definitely agree. Watson, anywhere that he ended up, would definitely give that to whoever. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated about all future shows.